Is it recording?
I don't know.
Start.
Oh, yeah,
It
got the notification.
started.
Oh, hey.
Hello, it started recording. Hello, lovely
Hello.
Odessa Sherread. Lovely to be in conversation with you today. So, Odessa, for those of us that don't know about you, can you tell us who you are and a little bit about your business, please?
Yes, of course. So my name is Odessa. I am a LinkedIn marketer. So I help write engaging content for small businesses on the platform, and also help them with other aspects of business development, any transferable content for other platforms such as Facebook or their internet site or blogs and that kind of thing, for a slightly more personable feel towards their marketing and a more human connection to their audience.
Oh, I love that. But we're going to get really stuck into that shortly. Human connection to audience. I mean, you know, just using those words together.
Can you tell I'm a writer?
Oh, yes. I absolutely love it. And I would expect nothing less, frankly. So, Odessa, why this business? Why now? And please tell us the name of your business as well.
Yeah, so my business is called Scrivo Social Media, and the reason that I chose the business name, which I think is quite integral to how my business started, was I was working in a partnership with somebody else, and when that broke down, I needed to somehow validate my purpose and what it was that I could offer that allowed me to step out of that partnership as a professional in my own right. And as somebody who's obsessed with Italy and with Italian opera, my favorite opera is La Boheme, and specifically, one of the arias is C'è gelida manina,
Oh,
which is just goosebump worthy.
oh,
And Rodolfo is a writer, and so his purpose in life in the song, as he's explaining and introducing himself, is I write. And I thought there's nothing better to give me that purpose and to explain what I do and show that this is what my life has been culminating into than to pick a verb and a profession to explain what I'm on the platform to achieve. So that's where the name came about.
I mean, I just want to say, I knew about your Italian obsession, and I think the way that we
Just
met
how
is,
deep it goes.
yeah, it's just like, oh, so I do think you are my friend because you like me, but I also think the fact that I'm Italian
I
does
love
help.
you.
Gets me across the finish line. But I just want to say that the thing that I did not know about you, that you love Italian opera,
So much.
because opera is like, so my two favorite musical genres are hip hop and opera, and I think they're very
Yes.
similar because they're
I
really
think so
rare.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
But my favorite opera is La Boheme, and my
Mm.
favorite aria is Che gelida la manina. And anyone who speaks Italian knows that the Italian for writing is scrivere. So that is it's so beautiful. But what I love about your story is immediately, and this is the thing, and this is what I want to get into, is uh, the understanding and appreciation of who you are and that sensibility that you bring to your work. So you've just told us a fantastic story that encapsulates all of that you would have, that if you had tried to explain the features and attributes of what you do,
Yeah.
would not have encapsulated that. So
Yeah, and I think what's important right off the bat, as soon as you jump into self-employment and starting your own business or being part of a franchise for somebody else and bearing their name, is that you have to be intentional for one thing with what you're going to do, what your purpose is. But you also have to put a piece of yourself into the brand that you create, that you become a part of. If those values don't align with you, then you have to reconsider the direction that you're heading in. But the most important thing, and we'll go through it in our conversation, is the fact that you have to put yourself into what you do. If you try and take a very corporate, very cold approach to presenting yourself in your marketing, you're going to find that people won't necessarily buy into that, because what they really need to buy into is you as a person, not necessarily just your services.
yeah, yeah. And it's that thing, that, so the conversation I have with business owners a lot is is that tension, that constant tension between wanting to appear professional
Yeah.
and wanting to put themselves in the brand, but they're not sure how to do it without, you know, oversharing. Or so particularly with therapists that I work with, you know, there may be a story there. So the work that I will do with them is like, you don't need to tell that particular story in order to get people to connect with you. So you said something about it, something being integral, and it makes me think that the Italian word, the word integrale is about integrating. So it's about integrating yourself into the business and being able to tell that story in a way that, I mean, I love it. This is exactly why I wanted to speak to you, because there's so much that you say. And
I mean, I'm standing up now because I'm feeling all pumped.
I'm really, really excited, The other thing you said is about, you said something just now about being intentional. Yeah. When you think about being intentional in the way that you, and we'll come on to very specifically, you know, your take on how, well, first of all, how people can work with you, but also how you can help business owners that are struggling to create content, struggling to tell their story. So when you say it's about being intentional in your business, what do you mean by that?
So for me, intentional is, well, I'm a parent. I've got 3 small children, and for the last year, I've had to be both parents for many reasons, one of which being my husband's physical limitations. And so I decided this when I went back to work after having my first, if I was going to take time away from my children to earn money, I had to enjoy what I was doing. It had to serve a purpose. And when I turned up to work, I was there to work. When you're an employee, when time is of the essence and somebody's paying you just to sit in an office 9 till 5, you will take opportunities to talk and lark about with other people. I think there was a study, I read some research that in the, say, 8 hours a day that you're actually working, you're probably only being productive by about 2.5 to 3 hours of that time.
Oh my God.
Yeah, really, really low level productivity, which explains why when people started working from home and feeling more focused and had more intention over their time, they were choosing what energy they were giving to which activity and where it slotted in with their everyday life. Many businesses found that their productivity increased. So I think there's a huge link between being aware of the time you have available, choosing what gets your energy in that time, and working out how you want to show up. So if we take things like LinkedIn, for example, is a whole platform. You could spend your whole day reading people's content, connecting with people, prospecting, replying to messages, and achieve nothing of the business operations and services that you give your own clients, because you've sat on the platform without an intention, without a reason for being there. And so, as you would with any of your business operations, right, I need to get these invoices done before 5 o'clock, or I need to send this proposal by this time. You give yourself a deadline. You give yourself parameters of which you need to complete those tasks, and you're aware of the bigger picture, and marketing is no different.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is in order to be intentional, you have to have clarity. But what I think we're also starting to get into is strategy. There has to be a reason for doing things. And I see, and I think maybe you may see something similar, is that people often don't know why they're doing things. They're just doing them because it's the kind of received wisdom of, these are tick these boxes, and this is what you need to do. The other issue, again, I think, which is why the beauty of working with someone like you takes all of the pain out of that, is everyone's got an opinion. There are, you know, how many millions of courses are there, and workshops and masterclasses in how to do social media and how to do content creation and all of that stuff. So it's very overwhelming. So I think what you're saying is, when you understand why you're doing something and you have a strategy and you have clarity, you can be intentional and you can actually get it done, frankly.
And the problem is that being on a platform like LinkedIn, when there are so many people who have been on there since the platform was created, or for the last few years, or have massive followings, we think that any of those markers suggest that that person knows what they're doing. Well, they know what they're doing for themselves, but they don't necessarily know what's right for you. And they don't always teach the principles or the foundation ideas of how to build that. They're just sort of formulaically telling you how you can do it like them. But an interesting quote that I heard on Top Gear from James Blunt on his Twitter was that opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one. And when you realize that the value of somebody's opinion could actually be quite reduced past their inflated ego, you realize that if you know what you need to do on the platform, you understand where it fits in your marketing strategy, because it's not the only way that you should market your business. It's a part of a holistic 360 view of how to get out there and get more work. It's not the only way you should be doing it. And when you understand those things and you can see that it has to slot into your diary, but it is not your entire day, that's when you start to see, yes, it's relevance, but that's when you start getting results, because you've got a deadline or a task or something that you want to achieve. You've got a goal, and so you need to understand as much of it as you can so that you can make sensible goals.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting. I would say beware the six-figure gurus. You know, we all know them.
It's bollocks.
They're the ones out there saying, this is what worked for me, and it can work for you too. And a lot of the work that I do with clients is unraveling the stuff that they may have seen that is, like you said, it's for people that have those huge profiles, and they're able to leverage that in a particular way. But let's get really into the detail, because as you know, I work exclusively with micro and very small enterprises, and I would say I spend at least 80% of my time talking to people about their marketing and, you know, and how to do it. And when they do know how to do it, it's such a shock, frankly. But let's talk about why do you feel that it is that a lot of small businesses and small business owners really struggle with creating content? And what I'd really love to hear from you is, what's the journey that you may go on with them when they come to you and just say, I need help?
Yeah. So I'd say that there are a few main reasons as to why people avoid writing content. And I think before we go into those reasons, the first thing that we need to point out about LinkedIn, above all other platforms, is that it's not a broadcasting network. LinkedIn does not reward you for simply throwing out content. Yes, it likes consistency. Yes, it likes that you are part of the 1% of active accounts that actually contributes to what people can read, because it is still such a small figure. But the fact is, it does not reward you for broadcasting. What LinkedIn wants to see is you engaging with your peers, contributing to the conversations of others. If we view LinkedIn like a social network, the whole point is it's a way of online networking, building up your audience, finding potential business, finding collaborators, and things like that. So the main reasons that then people decide not to post are, and I've heard all sorts, but these are probably the main is, I've got nothing interesting to say. Everybody knows what I do, and there's nothing interesting about me. I'm worried that people will judge me for what I'm putting online, and so I don't want to. I don't have time, which is just another one. Which is, I like that one a lot. And then you get people saying, I don't want to be trolled. I don't want the sexual harassment. I don't feel safe online. I don't know who I'm talking to, and all that kind of thing, which from my own experience is fairly valid, but not one that should be a stumbling block. And I think that leads people to overcooking and overthinking their content, when you'll actually watch lots of content do really well that's just a picture of someone's dog, or a picture of the beach, or it will be a selfie, or it will be a headshot from their most recent photo shoot. And we'll talk about why those things do well, but the fact is that we think more about ourselves when we're posting our content than we actually focus on the value we can give out to our audience. Absolutely. And that's the mindset shift. We're actually being very self-centered when we think people aren't interested in me. I've got nothing to say. You do, but you're not thinking about, what does this person need to hear? What does my network need from a pensions advisor or an accountant? what can I see is going to help them the next time they fill in a tax return, or the next time they look at making a strategy for taking their business into the next quarter? What are they missing out that I just want to jump up and down and say, you need to understand this better? Stop thinking about yourself and start thinking about your audience.
Yeah. I just want to say, I've got this vision of being in my next coaching session and having a little you in my pocket. But or what I do is actually say to my client, can you just stop a minute, because I'm going to play this video. This is what you need to hear, because this is what I hear all the time. And what happens is, and I can see why it happens, but people get tripped up because they're thinking of themselves.
Yeah.
Rather than thinking, what is the value to my audience? What you just said about adding value to the audience, and thinking about, so I describe it as you've got to understand who it is that you're talking to, because that is a major stumbling block. People will have assumptions. Oh, well, this is what my audience are. Is that who they really are? And then when you drill down into it, it's like, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Which is,
there was a post I did, is it earlier this week? Yeah, no, 2 days ago. I was having a bad day. I told you I was coming out of a funk. The post that I wrote was, I found a quote: if you get tired, learn to rest, not quit. So the post is very short. I put, when things are feeling too heavy, I've been tempted to run away for a while. Today, it feels easier to quit. The answer is neither, just keep swimming. And I got so many, I mean, it did well-ish. I think the reach on LinkedIn is down at the moment, but I had so many people say, this is what I needed today.
Yeah.
When I post very honestly like that, those are the type of messages that I get. If we are being vulnerable enough that we can admit we're struggling, but provide a solution to our audience as well, that's when our audience is let past our own barrier, but not too far that we're uncomfortable. And we start to really give the value to other business owners and develop that trust and that transparency that is always needed when referring somebody or when going into business to somebody.
So can we talk about that word vulnerability? Because I think that's the place, again, I spend an inordinate amount of time speaking to business owners about what, and of course it's going to be different for everyone, and I see some people that are very able to share fairly personal things in a way that doesn't take away from their audience, and critically, because we don't want the audience to feel like they're having to look after us. That's not the intention. Yes. But crucially, that it doesn't take away from that individual as well. So what you just described was a way of being vulnerable, that all it does is it resonates with the audience rather than detracting and putting them in a position. So what's the difference, Odessa?
So for me, let's take a selfie, for example. Now, why do people post a selfie? They do it because it's psychologically proven that people like eye contact. A selfie where you're looking straight at the camera gets people to stop scrolling. Then they get to see you. They're more likely to connect. But let's talk about why that is. It's because we're looking for that level of human connection. And yes, it's nice to see somebody we're all really nosy as human beings. But if you're doing it for the right reason, it's not just to get engagement. It's not just to get people saying you're so fit, or aren't you so beautiful, or whatever else like that. If you're doing it as part of your marketing strategy, it's because you need to be the face of your brand. People need to connect with you. If you're going to networking events, you want them to go, oh, I know who that is straight away because I saw a picture of them the other day. Yeah. So if you're going to share something online, you have to make sure there is real tangible value to your audience. If you're sharing a picture of yourself to connect with your brand, that's real tangible value. Or if you're telling people, because you're a photographer, this is how you work with issues with lighting, real tangible value. But when you're doing it just for a hook, just for views over the weekend because you don't intend to post and you're looking for more profile views, then there is no value to your audience. And that is very empty, popular content.
Oh my God, that is so good.
I feel like I'm doing like a TED Talk.
Odessa, you should do a TED Talk. That needs to be up there. Come on, make 2023 the year that you do
And
it.
and vulnerability comes in lots of different forms on the platform. So it's people talking about having a bad day. It's people telling people that they've got a loss. It's people saying, this is something I'm struggling with. Can I have help with it? I'm struggling with this system. I'm looking for new. It takes so many different forms appropriate to each person. I'm often commented, people say to me, you're very vulnerable in your posts. I can't do that. And I said, think about what you actually know about me. You know, I'm a parent. You know that I've moved to the Southwest. You know that I do a lot of writing. You think you know me really well because I'm in each post. But there is that level of safety. There is that degree of separation where you know enough about me without knowing my dirty laundry. I allude to parts of my journey that haven't been so positive, but I won't necessarily go into it unless I know that I can construct a post that gives very clear, tangible, probably more widespread value than it is just having a gripe at somebody that's annoyed me.
So when I years ago, I used to teach storytellers, international storytellers, amazing people, but I was asked to teach them how to run business, how to set up a business and run it ethically. And the thing they used to say in storytelling circles is, tell the part of the story that is a gift for your audience.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're saying. If it doesn't have value for your audience, then you're doing it for your ego, I guess, it is getting in the way.
There's nothing wrong with that. This is again the point of it, is that that's how we perceive it. Yes, it's empty content, but there's nothing wrong with that being part of your strategy. But then at least own up to the fact that you are putting out gratuitous content for the sake of your own ego. Don't pretend like you're being very vulnerable and you're being very audience serving and it's all about other people. There's nothing wrong with it. We've all gone through periods where we're like, I know a selfie is doing well, so I will use a selfie to stop the scroll to get people to read. I will use a picture of my dog to get people to stop, because everyone loves an animal picture because it's so much better than the 6-figure scroll that you've got most of the way through. So there's nothing wrong with being with giving the variety, but that means that being personal or sharing something away from your business as part of your strategy is something that you write down and you say. So it might be that you took your kids to the park. It might be that you walked your dog and you had 5 minutes to yourself. That doesn't sound like it's hugely valuable. So okay, could you actually talk about why did you walk the dog? Well, other than it's going to wee on your floor, is I needed to get outside. From a well-being point of view, I needed to get away from my desk. There is value in everything that you do, but sometimes you have to dig that little bit deeper to make sure that it's not just all about your ego. But people post for all sorts of reasons and get all sorts of different results. It depends what part of your strategy you're trying to serve and which part of your audience you're engaging with.
Okay, and I like that idea, but so I think what you're saying is, in some, not post what you want, but be strategic about what you're doing, but be honest above all. Be completely honest.
Yeah, let's think, as a business owner, if you've got a micro business, likely you're not employing anybody else at that point, so you're doing everything yourself. So each individual business owner wears many hats. They're a mother or a father, or they're a dog parent or a cat parent. They might be a daughter or a son. They might be a marketer and an accountant. They might be the strategist and they might be the bookkeeper. Like, they will wear so many different hats. So what you need to do with your strategy and what you're posting out there is show the various facets of your personality. It has to be about you. It has to be your views on, if you've got a strong view, like, for example, let's talk about the budget coming up on the 15th.
Let's not.
Well, let's not. But if that's important to you because you work in finance, talk about, don't just regurgitate what the news has said. And this really gets my nerves when people just repost or reshare things. Talk about your opinion. I don't want to know what the budget says because it doesn't make sense to me. Tell me how it's going to impact how I live my life, how I run my business. And if you don't agree with something, tell me you don't agree with it, because that's your opinion. It's not you being vulnerable that somebody's died and you can't pay your rent this month and somebody's starving on the streets, and isn't that sad? Because that's, you know, that's part of life. But tell me why that piece of content is going to make me feel something about you. And that is another big part of marketing, is getting people to feel something, feel that they want to buy, feel that they know you better, feel like they can trust you, but you've got to get them to feel.
Yeah, and I mean, I love that. And really, you're giving us a masterclass.
I'm messing up your order of questions.
No, I always know it's good when you've already answered one of the questions I was going to ask you, which is how do you help business owners tell their story? Well, presumably that's it, isn't it? That is the thing that you get people to do. It's about, when you were talking, you know, and you've said it a couple of times, but you said right at the beginning, it's about making human connection to your audience. Human connection is about emotion, and it is about feeling whatever that may be. Get them to feel something. You don't have to do it in a cynical way that tugs on heartstrings, or, you know, makes them feel
transactional.
Bad.
You have to avoid the transactional.
Okay, I love that. I think you've just done a post about that, haven't you?
I don't know, somewhere.
Oh,
I've written about all sorts of things.
Very modest, but I think you have done that, darling. I'm sure that you have done that. Okay,
absolutely.
So, I mean, I know that this interview could go on for a long time, and I feel like this is part one. There's definitely going to be part two, maybe three. But what I would really like, as we sort of move to the, you know, to the end, what I would really like I'd love you to riff on for us is, I have to convince a lot of business owners to be on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn's got a bit of a bad, it feels like people are like, I'll put my profile up and I'll do a couple of posts, and then, I haven't actually looked at it for the last 2 years or whatever. So in a nutshell, Odessa, what is your take on LinkedIn, and what are sort of, I don't know, maybe 3 ways to kind of convince business owners that they should be on LinkedIn?
Okay. No pressure.
No pressure. one thing is fine.
Yeah, no, I could talk about it all day. The thing is LinkedIn is a professional network where we intend to grow our businesses, gain an education, and to serve an audience. I think they're the main functions of being on LinkedIn. It doesn't matter if you were there 5 years ago, 2 years ago. If you now want to start using it, just jump in. And actually, those first few posts that you put up, reawakening the audience you'd already captured, are sometimes your best performing posts until you get into a rhythm of talking more regularly. I've seen sex therapists, I've seen pet shop owners, I've seen relationship coaches. There is not a sector that cannot be represented on LinkedIn, because as long as you've got an audience and a target market, target client, prospect, whatever you want to call it, they are on the platform, or they can help you get to the people that you want to talk to. So for me, it's about having an opportunity to show your expertise. Is one main reason you should be on there, because even if they don't connect with you and have a conversation with you on there, they will check you out. If they meet you at a networking event, or they see your practice as they're driving past or whatever, they will check you out. They'll look at your website, they'll look at your social profiles, they'll get a feel for who you are. Then they'll either email you, make you a phone call, or they'll run in the other direction, because what you're putting online is a huge representation of what you're like to work with. The other reason is, as we said, find the people that you want to work with, you want to collaborate with. And I think when people first start on the platform, they think too much about the other people in their sector as competitors. Therefore, I'm not going to connect with them. I'm only going to connect with this very small audience. It's not competition at all. They're collaborators. They're people that can help you in your journey. Even if you just take a quick look at their account every now and then, see the sort of conversations they're starting, the things that they're talking about. But most importantly on that is not to mirror what they're writing, but see, okay, let's talk about pensions. They've mentioned about pensions. They've talked about making sure that you're putting in the contributions. But what they haven't talked about is that it needs to be part of your monthly budget. So allow them to do some of the hard work for you if you're having a day where you can't think of what to write, and they've given you a subject you can go on, but try and think of the opposite side of the argument, the bit that they're not talking about, the bit that's kind of hidden away behind corporate jargon and things like that. Find the things to talk about that can set you apart and give a round table approach to a topic, as opposed to everyone talking about the same thing. I think there are social aspects, finding friends, people who can throw you referrals and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with giving of your time to help somebody else. You will connect with what I call connectors, myself being one of them, where if you say, I need a graphic artist, I'll be like, right, I've networked with about 4 or 5. Here are their names. This is what each of them specialize in. And it's that kind of non-crappy version of BNI where it's genuine connections rather than doing it for stats.
Yes. Not to disparage anyone who may be listening.
No, I've been to several BNI meetings. Some of them are fantastic, but the presentation every single time,
yes,
what a waste of networking opportunity.
And I think well, we've definitely got another conversation there about networking, but I feel the same way. And with networking, it's horses for courses. But okay, what you said was 3 things really, which I think are takeaways for people listening. It's about growing your business and showing your expertise on LinkedIn. It's about learning, but it's also about you educating. So there's a very, you can learn a lot, but you can also educate your audience as well. But really, it's about being of service. I talk about being of service all the time in my business.
Yeah.
So to hear you say it in that way as well, I just think that if people can get themselves out of the way and think about how they can add value and be of service, if they learn nothing else from this conversation, that is what I'd really like them to learn. So Odessa, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
So can you please tell everyone how to get in contact with you and where to find you, because I know there's lots of people that would massively benefit from working with you.
Yeah, so I am on LinkedIn. The URL is just my name. It's Odessa Sherread, and I work for Scrivo Social Media, so that is where you'll find me on there. I am on Instagram, but this is where I tend to focus my main attention.
Okay, so is that scrivosocial.co.uk?
No, I don't have a website for it. I just use LinkedIn, my profile page as my almost web presence.
Fantastic. And I'd just like to say as well that Odessa does a series of amazing Instagram. Woof! No, not Instagram. LinkedIn lives, which are absolutely brilliant, with a whole range of interesting, fabulous people. So please listen to that as well. Odessa, it's been absolutely lovely to speak to you. I know there's going to be part 2, 3, 4. We've somehow got to get we've got to get to an opera very soon.
Absolutely. I'm definitely feeling the withdrawal. Thank you so much.
Lovely to speak to you. I'm just going to stop the recording.